I have planted the seed, Apollos has watered it, but God has been making it grow. So neither the one who plants nor waters is anything, but only God who makes it grow.
When I look at this picture of me teaching Sunday school, I see Angelica, I think she was like 3 or 4 years old, and Jorge Hernandez was there, and I see where they're at now. And who would have thought that just the little simple words of teaching them, the investment that I could make into these children, to be able to see them flourish into what they are today. When you see what God does with them, and to be able to see them now continuing to serve the Lord, is such a blessing, and I know that the reward is incredible. That when we plant those seeds, that even though sometimes we don't see them flourish, that in time it'll be their time to just give their flowers and flourish at that time that God has for them.
So the way we kind of got this whole thing started was we began the ministry there in our apartment, and at that point it was usually just me and Cecilia, Aaron and Erica, and Ismael and his wife Daisy, and then maybe 2 or 3 students. And that's kind of how we got started, and then we went on to visiting or going to different houses, and we started kind of like a ministry that was out of this kind of student housing. Then we went to try a church that maybe might offer some facilities. So the whole thing kind of evolved into Riverside Christian, who decided that they would allow us to use their small chapel indefinitely until we had some better idea as to where we might be able to go. So really starting with 5 or 6 people, then we ended up in a chapel with somewhere around 15 or 20. At that point then we moved into the major sanctuary.
La carta la firmamos en el 93 también, porque yo me acuerdo que yo fui para la iglesia y luego me dieron el papel de presidente y me quedé allí como por unos 6 años, yo creo.
En 1994, cuando yo llegué a Riverside y estuve en esa iglesia como 4 meses. Después nos mudamos aquí a este edificio, Camino de Paz, y la experiencia fue maravillosa porque traíamos la emoción de que Dios había contestado nuestras oraciones, porque le estábamos pidiendo un lugar propio para nosotros, y Dios contestó nuestras oraciones y estamos aquí después de 20 años en Camino de Paz.
The ministry at Camino de Paz has been sustained throughout the years, and let's not be mistaken, 20 years is nothing to take for granted. There are many churches that don't last nearly that long, and so for it to have been able to sustain this long means several things. And I think one of the things that it meant is the sacrifices of people's time, of people's availability, of people's service, and of their money. I believe that Camino de Paz has laid a foundation, or the leadership has laid a foundation that has been fully committed in heart, in service, and also financially. There have been those who have given from the very beginning of everything that they are and everything that they have to the church. They have laid their lives down in order to sacrificially give it up for the church. And so there have been those who have given, and then those who had to give up even getting paid in some seasons in order to keep the church going. That this has always been a ministry that has been sustained outside of paying for the leaders to have to be able to do it. And so we've seen that sacrifice. But most importantly, the church has been sustained throughout all these years through God's favor and provision. It's very easy to begin to highlight the individual efforts of people and what we do. But we can never take for granted that it has always been God's ministry, and that it has always been God's favor, and it has always been God's provision. The leadership built this church upon keeping Christ the focal point of the ministry. And as a result, God has always provided. God has provided for the individuals in leadership. God has provided for their families. And as you can see, God has provided for the church as a whole. Without those things, without God's favor, without people, this church would not have been able to sustain 20 years of incredible ministry.
Mira, yo creo que el ministerio de Camino de Paz continúa primero porque tenemos unos pastores tremendos. Ellos de alguna manera nos traen la palabra de Dios de una manera tan significativa, con una pasión y más que nada con amor a sus miembros. Eso pienso yo que nos ha mantenido a los que estamos aquí después de 20 años y toda la gente que nos acompaña siempre sale de aquí entusiasmada y agradecida y contenta de cómo nuestro pastor nos trae la palabra cada domingo.
La iglesia ha avanzado el 100%. Primero por nuestros pastores, porque Cecilia es una mujer que se mueve mucho ante la comunidad. Antes hacíamos muchos eventos para traer gente a la iglesia. Gilbert es un hombre que nunca está quieto, siempre está haciendo una cosa y haciendo otra para que el pueblo se sienta bien, la iglesia se sienta bien. Y yo sé muy bien que cualquier hermano que va a él tiene una respuesta para eso.
You know, something special about this ministry is the people that the Lord has brought together. There's so many different talents and so many different backgrounds. I really feel like these are just the beginning steps of something very beautiful, something very big, something very effective. I believe the Lord is like making a good foundation right now, and that's what I believe He's doing. And something with a solid foundation is never going to fall. I definitely see it growing. I definitely see it affecting people, and I see people being changed by the foundations that are being set here.
Bueno, yo llegué a la iglesia Camino de Paz por las clases de ISL que estaban dando y yo miré el anuncio en un periódico que se llamaba El Informador Hispano y ahí venía el anuncio y fue la forma que yo me enteré por las clases. Entonces vine, me registré, comencé las clases de inglés y como a las 2 semanas hubo una invitación a la iglesia, al servicio del domingo y pues vine yo y me gustó, pensé que era algo que podía ser efectivo para mi vida y fue la forma que viví aquí. Y yo pienso que fueron como unas 1,500 familias las que asistieron a las clases y fueron beneficiadas del programa del ISR y duró 7 años.
For Vacation Bible School, in my heart I felt that we needed to start out with backyard Bible clubs. And we chose 3 homes, 3 individuals that graciously opened their home and allowed children to come to their house. And we had our first Vacation Bible School in 3 different locations. We averaged about 20 children in each home. And we were excited because it was the first time that Camino de Paz had ever had a Vacation Bible School. Through the years, it has grown, and through many additions of workers, we have had many more children, even up to this year, having over 80 children. We were blessed. We have been blessed to have and welcome each child that comes to Camino de Paz.
Around the year 2011, I started to assume more responsibilities in the English services as associate pastor, and just felt that it was important that the same privileges that I had been given as a youth and then a leader in the church was to give that same opportunities to others. And so in the year 2011, I had the opportunity to focus more on what we were doing in ministry in the English services, and felt strongly that it was time, and that one of the youth who was preparing, who had been part of the youth and had stayed committed and volunteering so much of time and had expressed an interest in the youth, that it was time to bring this leader up. And so I had a great conversation with John Medina, and wanted to give him that opportunity to grow in his own leadership, an expression of what God's calling him to do. His passion was there. I think there was a calling there, and it was, again, just one of those great timing and great fits that God ushered in. I think that's one of the beautiful things that the leadership of our church has done over the years, is keeping a great eye and ear out for when God is calling others into higher levels of leadership. And it was important for me to hear it, to receive that, and then to extend that offer to someone else so that they could grow and they could continue to grow the youth ministry to where it is now. And so I'm very grateful for John and his heart and his passion, he and Katie both, in their answering that call and in their commitment to Camino de Paz. I think that says a lot about who they are. They're talented enough that they could probably go to any other church and other churches and do what they do, but their heart is drawn to Camino, and they've been faithful to that. And I think God is blessing that commitment in their leadership and in their growth, and I'm very thankful for that.
I actually had somebody come to me one time, and he expressed this in such a way that it actually helped me be a better worship leader. He came to me one time and he said, "You know, Tim, what's special about you is when you worship, you can tell that you're making it a personal, something personal between you and God." And he says, and the thing about it is you're doing it in front of everybody. And he says, and we get to see this, and we actually get to be a part of it. And after being a part of it, he said that actually helped him know how to worship and communicate with God a little better. So to me, that would be probably the main thing that I focus on is I like when the people, the worship team, all come together, working together, learning what it's like to speak to the Lord, to sing to the Lord, to talk to Him, talk about Him, talk of Him, thank Him. And that has to be my main goal when I'm singing.
Fall Festival is another event, a form of evangelism that we've used for Camino de Paz, so that we have included. And it started in 2007. It was called the Mystery Room, and many people walked in for the first time in the community, not knowing what a Protestant church looked like. But they were bold and brave and walked in. They brought their children, and this Mystery Room actually was a form of letting them know that there is a Christ, there is Jesus. And even though the families were curious to see, they were very bold in coming in and passing through these doors. We started out with approximately 150 people the first year, but it was an exciting moment. From then on, we have grown every year. Families are added to the church because of results of Fall Festival. This past year, we had over 1,000 people walking through our doors, and the past 2 years we have included a prayer tent, and we have had wonderful results from that prayer tent because we see the need of the community, and we want to be a part of being helping the community by praying for them, providing a need perhaps that we can help in. So Fall Festival, it's a big evangelism work for all the church to participate in, and we all love it, we enjoy it, we have a lot of fun with it, and are blessed by seeing the results.
One of the other most beautiful things that I've been able to witness at Camino de Paz is a beauty and what some other people might consider a burden, because oftentimes we get to see that people's lives, and the people come into the church and their lives are changed by the worship experience and by the message. And then sometimes we don't ever get to see those people again, and we never get to see the fruit of that labor. And sometimes that's a challenge for ministry leaders because we expect those people to stay. But what people might not notice and what people might not realize is that what was done in that one experience significantly changed their lives forever in ways that we might not ordinarily see, and also in different environments that we might not see. So what you all may not know is the countless weddings that Dr. Mares has done, the countless quinceañeras that have been performed that have brought people to the church. And it's all by word of mouth and the Spirit of God, because people would come and their life would be changed, and years later they would think of that one pastor that spoke to their heart, and their child's about to turn 15, and rather than go to the person whose church they've been going to, or maybe they haven't been going to church at all, the people that they end up thinking about are Dr. Mares and some of the leaders here at Camino de Paz. And that's one of the beautiful things. We may not get to always see the people whose lives have been changed. We may not always get to see the fruit of that labor, but the reach is so much greater. And so we've had all of those countless quinceañeras, all of those weddings, but what we've also seen are some counseling sessions that Dr. Mares has attained the education and the spiritual maturity to be able to help families put their lives together, to help people keep their lives from falling apart, to help marriages stay together. In fact, I can think of at least a couple of instances where a couple had met, and actually it started with an individual, and Dr. Mares would meet with the person one-on-one, and they would pray so fervently for their spouse to come, and all of a sudden their spouse would come, and next thing you know, everyone's giving themselves over to the Lord and accepting Christ for the very first time there at Camino de Paz. And these are people who might not ever set foot in the worship experiences, but because of the way that God has just allowed the seeds to scatter and the Spirit of God to move, people talk about their lives being changed at Camino. And so I think that's one of the most valuable things that we have in our leadership, is the education and the experience to be able to counsel pastorally and spiritually and practically how to live life, but also how to live life with another in regard to the marriage counseling. It's been a beautiful ministry that most people don't get to see because it happens on weeknights when nobody's at the church. And after work, Dr. Mares is running to the church for a counseling session, or leaving home early, or having to eat dinner real quick in order to change people's lives. And I think it's a beautiful thing to have witnessed throughout these years.